Welcome back to another episode of you don't know of We Don't Know What to Watch. I don't even know the name of this podcast anymore. If we don't know what to watch, podcast for two guys watch random movies thanks to the almighty algorithm. And with me, as always, is the incredible, the Cretaceous, and the rapacious Kyle Mulford. Hi, Kyle, and I'm Noah Saturn.
I'm doing fine, Noah Saturn, on We Don't Know What to Watch. I'm doing good, and this podcast today has been brought to you by vegetarian lionesses because
Yes.
they will not eat our listeners, but they will scare them into listening more.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, you are the beam to my ROM from RRR. And just like RRR, this film was made in South Asia.
Yes. So we get an Indian film. Have we done an actual episode on an Indian film on here? Or
Yeah,
have we just talked
we did
about
the one about
watched?
the one about the airline guy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I couldn't remember if we'd only just watched them and mentioned them on the What You Watching podcast, or if we did a full episode. But you're right. We did the airline one.
Yes.
This one is more just a family drama comedy.
Yes.
Dramedy?
A dramedy, as the kids say.
Do you got a quick snowball pitch for us on this one?
Okay.
A quick pitch for this 2.5 hour movie?
Oh, that's short by Indian film standards.
Right.
Anyway, so in this film, there's a young couple named Kuku and Nina. Anyway, so they've been married for about 5 years. Things are going so well. They both want to get a divorce. But before they get divorced, they have to go home in India because they were living in Toronto at the time for her job. They have to go home to India so that way they can go to Kuku's little sister's wedding. And then they meet their parents there but they have to keep quiet. Because, and that's the basic this. But this movie has more twists and plot knots than the Boy Scout handbook. So many knots. So many complications.
Oh, but pump. Speaking of that, like a lot of times these, I don't even know if would you qualify this as a romantic comedy because it's about that couple, but it's also about the parents. It's also about the sister Ginny. Like it's about so many people, and yet it doesn't feel like too much. But a lot of these come down to like miscommunication where you're just like, just tell them. But I feel like this movie played it well so that I wasn't frustrated with that, like I am with a lot of romantic comedies.
Yeah, very much feels almost a little bit of kind of classical screwball, almost Shakespearean level misunderstandings, while also having a good emotional heart and emotional core, where some of it does feel like pretty impactful, even if it is during a silly moment. But they're good to balance the tone of kind of like silly and serious and emotionally devastating.
Yeah, and to go into some of those scenes, I think we should go into a little more detail because this is a 2.5 hour movie. So you've got these kids, and so like kind of the cold open as you kind of see them as like grade schoolers, and he's like, stay away from my Nina. We're going to butcher the names, and I apologize, just like we apologize every time on these films.
Mm-hmm.
So like you see their like childhood sweethearts, and then they grow up and they're dating, and then you find out he's proposed like 5 times, and then finally she says yes, and they get married, and then you get the title, and then you go to 5 years later, and like you said, I love how they're going to do like an anniversary dinner, and they were both supposed to invite friends, and only one guy comes, and it's just awkward. And then he's like
a really annoying guy from work.
Yeah, and then he's like, this is just a barrel of laughs. Why don't you tell me on the count of 3 what you both want from each other and for as a gift or whatever? And he's like 1, 2, and they're both divorce. So yeah, like you said, he was like, well, my sister's getting married in India, so his sister Ginny getting married in India. So he's like, can we just keep this from my parents for now until after the wedding? And then he goes back when he's about to try and tell his dad. He gets him drunk, and then the drunk dad actually says, I'm getting a divorce from your mom. And so you've got to
wait till after the wedding.
Yes, but wait till after the wedding. And so you've got that drama going on. Yeah. And then you've got that drama going on, but then, the main couple want to get divorced, and the woman is getting pressured by all the other women in the family to have a baby. And finally, she couldn't wait any longer because they're doing some ceremony where I'm assuming this is a real thing. They're dumping something over her head. It's some ritual to good vibes for having a baby or something. And she finally goes, enough of this. We're getting a divorce. And so then the mom now knows that they're getting a divorce.
And then later the dad is like, hey, son, can you come help me with something? We're going to do some decorations. They sneak out, go to a movie theater, while the son is still in his pajamas, mind you. And they find out that, the dad wants to divorce the mom so that he can get with his son's old math teacher.
Yes. And it's so awkward because he's sitting in between them. And then you bring in the Nina. I'm just going to say Nina, even though I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. You bring in her brother. So he's friends with Cuckoo, and so he's kind of the comic relief, and I actually loved this character. He's just this wild card weird dude.
Yeah, and he's rich, but you're not sure where his money comes from.
Yeah, and I thought they were going to explain it, and Cuckoo even goes, "What do you actually do?" And then he just sidetracks him and just goes, "Well, here, we'll drink to blah blah blah." And this is and then they never go back to it. They just establish that he's got money, he's got some weird business.
Yeah, and then he goes to this office. There's just this glass office surrounded by really beefy guys all working on just random things in this warehouse. And then the office, and then he has a placard or a little sign in his office, and it just says "businessman."
Yes. It's so bizarre. It's just and you don't even care because it's so fun. That character is so weird and fun. It's just he just butts into everything. And everybody's like, why is he here? It's well, because I'm part of the family. So you get all of these twists and turns, and then you find out that the dad is kind of he's very selfish, and he's kind of a liar about stuff. So
yeah, and then let's see, twist number 4, we find out Ginny doesn't even want to get married. She doesn't even like the guy that much. She still has a thing for her ex.
Yep. So she doesn't know what to do about that, and then and then she wants, the day before her wedding, she wants to do a big surprise vow renewal for her parents on their anniversary, but she doesn't know about everybody wanting to get divorced.
So that now it's the job of Nina, Cuckoo, Ginny, and then Nina's brother to try and get mom and dad back together so that they can get this party before the wedding going.
Yeah, and you just get twist after twist and stuff going on, and people getting mad because some people know some things and other people know different parts of the story, and there's the whole plot of not telling until after the wedding is done. So it makes sense that there's a little bit of miscommunication, and it makes sense why. So with all those twists in mind, what I liked about this film is, even though it's there's some silly moments and it's fun, some of the drama really works. Some of the scenes you really get invested in. There's a scene where the mom finally, and yes, for those who don't usually listen, we spoil the heck out of these movies, so watch it. We've already spoiled a lot. But where she goes and finally gets to meet her husband's mistress, and
Mira is the name of the mistress.
Mira, and she surprises everyone by saying, "You know what? You can have him. I will get a divorce because if he's not happy with me, then I can't be happy." And then she goes and she talks to the daughter-in-law, and they have this conversation, and she has that whole bit about because the daughter-in-law is like, "Why didn't you fight for him?" and all this stuff, and she's like, "Because if he's not happy with me, how can I be happy?" And it was a very powerful, moving scene. Actually, I thought the mom did a great job.
It was a good moment.
Yeah.
And then we get another twist after that, because then we find out that the dad is finally ready to move into Mira, and then Mira's like, "You know what? Never mind. I'm a very independent person. I don't want to take care of you." And then she kicks him out, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yes. And you go back and forth on the dad on whether you want him to get back together with the wife at the end or not. And it's one of those where I kept going back and forth on it, going, you keep lying to everybody about everything, and you're cheating on your wife, but he was played so well by I don't know what the actor's name was, is Anil Kapoor. He was played so well that like you just couldn't help, liking the guy, even though he was always lying about stuff.
Yeah, he always kind of reminds me of almost like Tom Cruise in the fact that no matter what kind of character he's playing, he's still charming as all heck.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. So then this is one of those films where everything turns out okay. Although not everything turns out completely good, I actually liked how they ended the parents thing at the end, because they're not officially back together. They signed divorce papers, and he has to now prove in the next 60 days whether they want to get back together or not. So he's got to work
Not
hard
6
at his
months, not
relationship.
60 days. So
6 months, yeah. And so over the next 6 months, and then he realizes, oh, I really do. And so you see him make little gestures like opening the door for his wife, but then getting in a cab because he's not, he's got to take baby steps. And that's at the end of the movie. I was like, that's I kind of like where they left their storyline.
Yep, so the finale of this film, after all this tension is built and built and built and built, it gets relieved when we cut to like the divorce court. Mom and dad are finally signing the papers. And then next up is Cuckoo and Nania, we're just going to call her Nina for the rest of the show. Cuckoo and Nina. Then they look at each other, look at the divorce papers, and they can't do it. And of course, there's this big confession of love. And then he proposes to her again, just like how he did the first time when she finally said yes. And I thought this was really funny that they brought it back. But he holds up his shirt, and then in marker it says, "Will you marry me?" Has a circle for yes and a circle for no on his abs.
Right. And then she just starts laughing and like in a good way, and starts crying and laughing. And
but while they're hashing this out, I love the judge is like, "Excuse me, I've got other cases to do. Are you going to sign the papers or not?"
And she just screams back, "We're talking here."
Like, just a minute.
Yeah, that was kind of cute at the end there. A couple other scenes I wanted to talk about was that were really cool, really good scenes. Was the "Tell Me About Marriage" scene, where like different people knew different things, and the mom didn't know what was going on, and except for she found out that those two were going to get divorced. The main couple were going to get divorced, so she's talking to them about how marriage is something you work at, and blah 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 blah. They've been married for her and her husband have been married for 35 years, and he comes in, and she's like, well, tell them marriage is a good thing and all this stuff. And then the son gets all like, yeah, dad, tell us how marriage is such a good thing. And it gets really tense. And I thought it was really a really well written scene, and how he finally blows up and is like, well, you're cheating on mom, blah blah blah, so the tension building in there was really good.
And
so
then
that was another good dramatic scene.
Yes, and then after that leads into another great scene, which has a bit of a joke where like then dad walks outside and then he just collapses and you think he's having a heart attack. They rush him to the hospital. Doctor comes into the room and says, yeah, I was just like gas or something, not a heart attack. You're fine. And the doc says, and then he says, no, doc, I had a heart attack. What do you mean? You're just fine. Doc, you tell them I had a heart attack or they're going to eat me alive.
Right. Yeah, so that's a whole thing too that plays out with lying about having a heart attack. So that, so you have that serious dramatic scene followed by this kind of dramatic yet comedic scene there. But then in contrast to a lot of the dramatic scenes, another one of my favorite scenes is when Nina and Cuckoo were in bed, and then they're starting to think about getting back together, and they just had this big fight where they finally tell each other why they want a divorce. And I thought that was really good, and it was really great and well written. And another dramatic scene that was followed right behind by they're about to go back to bed, and then the brother of Nina comes in, what is it, Gurpreet. He comes knocking on their window, and then there's a whole scene in there where he's talking to them, telling them that they should stay together and blah 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 because that's his sister and he wants to see them stay together. And then and they're like, "Why did you come in through the window? It's midnight. Why would I come knocking on the door?" And then
he's like the shenanigans character.
Yeah, but what's funny is then the dad comes knocking on the window, and he's like, "Your mom wants to meet my your old math teacher, my mistress." And it's just like, what am I supposed to do? Why is he here? So there was like a really good scene between the two main actors, and then all of a sudden into this comedic scene of people coming in through the window and and trying to figure out what to do. So yeah, this is again, it's an Indian film, so it's 2.5 hours long, but it didn't that the length didn't bother me on this one. I think it was well written.
Yep, very well paced. Had enough scenes where you always felt like the plot was moving forward. It didn't feel like any time was wasted in the film.
Yeah. So should we go into it? Well, first of all, we've already mentioned our Chekhov's Chekhov, because we've got Chekhov's belly proposal.
That's true.
When that came back, I was like, I'm so glad that came back. Or front, as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so going into whether we would recommend this movie or not.
I absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go the same. If you like these kind of fun family dramas with a little bit of comedy and a couple fun characters, and like the brother is a fun comedic relief character. Yeah, this was well written. It moves along quickly, even for as lengthy as it is. So keep that in mind when you see the 2.5 hour length. And I would call this one a definitely watch it on streaming. What did we watch this streamed on?
This was on Amazon Prime.
Yes, that's right. This was one of those movies that was picked up by Amazon and distributed by them, I think. So this is a 2022 film, so it's a new one.
Yep, and apparently from what I was reading, it was one of the highest grossing Indian films of 2022. So, all right.
Yeah. And did we even mention the title at the beginning? Jug Jugg Jeeyo?
I'm not sure we did. Oh, we're terrible.
We are, but that's the name of the movie. If I pronounce that right, I don't know. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, it means
too, so there's that.
Yeah, and apparently, according to Wikipedia, it means live a long life or something like that. So, yeah, I would definitely say on my scale, this is a definitely stream it. Seek it out on streaming and stream it. So.
Yep, a lot of fun. Because I think generally, at least as an American, I need to watch more international cinema. And South Asia has a very rich cinema, so it's definitely good to check out more of those.
Okay, so I'm going to go first on what would you recommend as a double feature, because I didn't even think about this week, and I don't know what happened, but so we're just going to go, you know what? Go from this to a good old action Indian movie and watch RRR, because I just want to recommend that again.
I'm telling you, it's like the greatest movie ever made.
Right? I still need to watch that with my wife. She says she wants to watch it with me. I'm like, yes, we need to watch RRR together.
It's so good. I was very happy. I was very glad that I was lucky enough to catch a theatrical screening of that. It was so much fun.
Yes. So that's my recommendation. Doesn't have anything to do with this movie other than it's another Indian movie. So that's kind of a terrible connection, but I didn't even think about this one, and I kind of slacked in that area.
I was thinking of going with a screwball style comedy, which this film had some elements of, involving a wedding or people trying to get married. I would recommend The Philadelphia Story with Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and Katharine Hepburn. It is a classic old Hollywood screwball comedy with miscommunication, people getting drunk, and all around it's just still really funny.
Okay. You know what? We could also go I'll give another recommendation that actually is wedding related as well, and go My Big Fat Greek Wedding, because that's a fun movie. And that's kind of fun because you get like all these Greek traditions with a wedding. And in this one, you get to see a lot of Indian wedding traditions. So like, it's good to see all of these different cultures of weddings, like in films.
Yep. Everybody gets married.
Exactly. So, yeah, so there's some recommendations for you, but definitely go to Amazon Prime and check this one out. You got, as long as you got Prime, you can watch this one for free.
Absolutely. So, Kyle, now here's another big question for you. What are we going to watch next?
Let's go to the wheel.
The magic wheel.
We're going to go 70 to better, all genres, and spin.
Okay, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Ah, bankrupt.
We have Oh, it's another long one. 2.5 hours.
Bring it.
After a prank goes disastrously wrong, a group of boys are sent to a detention center where they are brutalized. 13 years later, an unexpected random encounter with a former guard gives them a chance for revenge.
Stand by me or die, I assume.
Yes, or sleep, because this is called Sleepers from 1996. I have seen this one. I think I remember this being pretty good. Directed by Barry Levinson, has Kevin Bacon, Billy Crudup, Robert De Niro, Minnie Driver, Dustin Hoffman, Jason Patrick, Brad Pitt, Brad Renfro.
I like to imagine Robert De Niro as one of the teenagers. He's got range.
Composer John Williams.
Huh.
So yeah, this is a longer movie, but if I remember correctly, I saw this once or twice back when it came out, and I think I enjoyed this one. It's streaming on HBO Max and Canopy.
I assume it'll be just like that the Woody Allen comedy Sleeper.
I'm sure it's very comedic when they get revenge on the prison guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a very slapsticky revenge.
Throw pie fights, Okay.
So yeah, we'll watch Sleepers for our next one. But in the meantime, you can catch us online. I'm on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
And I'm also on Twitter at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled Satern.
We're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. Go ahead and email us. We'll read it on the air. I'm not scared. Comment below on our video, like, subscribe. Let us know what you've been watching. Let us know what you think of the movie we talked about. And until then, watch out for those vegetarian lionesses.
Yep.
Until
then, watch out for divorce, I guess.
Oh, I kept talking about the vegetarian lioness, but I don't think we ever mentioned where in the movie that was.
Yeah, come on, Kyle.
When the dad was drunk and he blurted out that he wanted a divorce from his mom, he said marriage was like the woman is like a vegetarian lioness. She doesn't eat you, but she keeps you scared with her roar at all times, or something like some weird thing like that. I was like,
okay, Dad, sure.
A vegetarian lioness. So watch out for them.
Mm-hmm. They're out to get you,
but not eat you.